Hello, lovelies. Happy Wellness Wisdom Wednesday. I'm Donya Fahmy, and I'm the Alchemist in Chief for Sustainable Health Solutions, Inc. and Dropwise Essentials. I'm also a natural health expert and a lifestyle transformation facilitator. Did you know that May, the month of May, among other things, is National Better Sleep Month? We all know that not getting enough sleep can make us really cranky. It affects our productivity, our ability to focus, and, among other health problems. Now, one thing is for sure, a lack of health sleep has been linked to more serious health problems like heart disease, stroke, depression, immune system weakness, you name it. And actually, the one that's really interesting, I think, is obesity. Yes, it's true that your lack of sleep can actually result in you gaining weight, right? So anyway, I say forget the trade deficit. We've got a serious national sleep deficit. The National Sleep Foundation did a survey a while back and it indicated that more than 70 million Americans struggle with some form of insomnia. So whether it's like you have trouble falling asleep at night, or you have trouble staying asleep throughout the course of the night, or you wake up too early, right? Like who knows, who's had this experience where you're like, wake up like an hour, maybe even 2 hours before your alarm is scheduled to go off. And then you try to go back to sleep, and sometimes you do, and then you're tossing and turning, and you wake up and you're just feeling tired and cranky. So today I'm going to talk about what I consider to be like the top 5 reasons why you might not be getting enough quality sleep and what you can do to improve on that. Now, this information applies to you whether your issue is you're just not logging enough sleep time, you're not getting enough hours of sleep, or you're, like most people, you're not getting a good night's rest. You're not getting quality sleep. And there's a lot of reasons why that happens. So I'm going to go into that. I'm going to do it a little bit differently from how I usually do it. I'm going to try this out. David Letterman style countdown. So we're going to start with number 5 and work our way down to number 1. Okay. And, they're not necessarily in a specific order. I mean, they are more or less, but it's loose. Okay, it's open to interpretation. It's just that these are all 5 things that we apply to many people, if not all of us, at one time or another. And so all of them may apply, or only some of them may apply to you, but they're things to consider and look at, and try to find ways to address them if you think these are things that apply to you. Okay, so number 5 is poor sleep posture and comfort, what I call a princess and the pea syndrome. So, I've talked about this in previous sessions, like the importance of having a good mattress and a good pillow, because it's really important for your back and your spine and your neck to be properly supported while you sleep. So the poor posture is a couple things. It's the position that you sleep in, and then is the mattress that you sleep on and the pillow that you use supporting you in that position. That's the most important thing, right? And so sleeping in the wrong position, if your spine's not supported, that results in chronic lower back pain. It can result in neck pain. It can result in sort of tingling and numbness in your fingers and your arms and your hands. And it can result in chronically shallow breathing, which is also another thing that contributes to chronic fatigue, right? Because you're just not getting enough oxygen at night when you're sleeping, right? And that's a problem. But it's one of those hidden things where you wouldn't even realize that that's what's going on. And that's why it's really critically important for both your neck and your spine to be properly supported. Now, the ideal position to sleep in is flat on your back with no pillow. But I know most people are accustomed to having pillows. So if you can't do that, then make sure you get a good pillow that will support the arch of your neck when you're sleeping back. So they make these great contour pillows. In fact, this is one of the kind of pillows I use. Let's unveil it here for you. It's got, it's not flat. You see, it's got this sort of, how can I do this? Like that. And one side's a little higher than the other. This one's a memory foam one. So the idea being that, especially if you're sleeping on your side, right, you want to make sure that you have support between your ear and the outer edge of your shoulder, right? And if you sleep on your back, then you see this little curve here will support your neck. And if it's too big, there's a smaller one on the other side that you can use. So I've got this one, it's a memory foam, so it's a little bit soft and cushy. And I have another one like it that's made of eggshell foam, and it has like an outer layer of down, like little down channels or things. So your down's supposed to be soft. Your down pillows are like really soft, too soft, really. And that actually creates a little bit of softness and a little bit of firmness. So it's kind of interesting. I switch back and forth between them during the course of the night. So for me, pillows are kind of a pet peeve, especially when you travel. And I have traveled a lot in the past. I'm not traveling much these days. But I find that, like, even when you stay in a really nice, expensive hotel, there's going to be like all these beautiful pillows, well-appointed bed, and none of them will support your neck and your head because they're all either made of down or some other fill that's very soft. And so you put your head on it and it just sinks right down. So if you're a side sleeper or stomach sleeper, no good. You've got to special request a foam pillow. So I'm all for a really good appointed bed, a nicely appointed bed. But what is up with all those pillows? Who's with me? Who knows what I'm talking about? Oh, by the way, make sure you share this or tag someone you think might be interested in this topic. So anyway, I digress. So the best position's on your back. Now, if you can't do back, if you're a side sleeper, you still want to make sure your neck is supported. So those contoured pillows are really great for that. And the worst position is sleeping on your stomach, right? Because you're flat on your stomach and it forces you to turn your head like all the way to one side or all the way to the other. So that puts a strain on your neck. And then if you're able to actually sleep with your face smushed down on the pillow, and I think most people probably can't, that interferes with your breathing, right? So then you can't get enough oxygen while you're sleeping in that position. So one of the things you can do if you're a stomach sleeper is get one of those body pillows, a long kind of like a roll, and then you kind of straddle that thing. And what it does is it provides you with that same sensation you get from sleeping on your stomach, but then you don't put all that pressure on your organs, and you don't put all that stress on your neck. So yeah. So I think I'm a combination sleeper. So I do a little bit of side, a little bit of stomach, and I've actually sort of trained myself over the years to sleep on my back for part of the night. So I start on my back and I go into the side, and I'll probably end up on my stomach, and then I swing back to the side, and then back on my back. That ever since I switched to a memory foam mattress, I find that I'm sleeping on my back a lot more longer stretches of the night. So whatever it takes for you to get to that position, that's going to be the optimal position to support you. Now, I've talked about the mattresses before. I'm getting a good mattress. And if you're interested in learning more about that topic, make sure you tune in next week at the same time, because I'm going to be doing a session on how to green your sleep routine. And I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of different types of mattresses and how you can get the healthiest possible mattress that'll help you support you in getting better sleep. So, I mean, it is May, and the whole month is Better Sleep Month, so you get another session just on that, a bonus session. So let's move on to reason number 4. So 5 was poor posture, Princess and P. Number 4 is overconsumption of stimulants, and I call that the caffeine trap. Who knows what I'm talking about? Anybody here know what I'm talking about? Post in the comments if you do. So basically, what you eat can affect the quality of your sleep, right? So if you don't get enough good nutrients, then your brain doesn't get what it needs to help you create more serotonin and melatonin, both of which are key elements and components of a good night's sleep. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more in a little bit here. But also, if you have poor digestion, because you don't eat properly or you have digestive issues, then at night when your body's supposed to be restoring and repairing itself, it's not, because it's busy working on trying to digest and deal with the food. So those are 2 things to keep in mind. But the thing that's really killing you is what you're drinking, right? It's the caffeinated coffee and the caffeinated beverages, the sugary sodas, and even alcoholic drinks. Now, ironically, most of us drink coffee, and a lot of it because we're trying to wake up in the morning, right? And we're trying to stay alert throughout the day. So because we're not getting a good night's sleep, we wake up feeling kind of tired. So we drink coffee to help us stay awake. But the problem is the caffeine stays in your system for so long that if you're drinking coffee throughout the day, which many people do, it's still in your system at night. So it affects you later on when you're trying to go to sleep later that night. So the deal with the caffeine is it stays in your system for about 7 hours, give or take. And so think of it like this. If you want to get a good night's sleep and say you want to go to bed at 10 p.m., just as an example, then you need to stop drinking caffeine by 3 p.m. No caffeine after 3 p.m. if you don't want it to interfere with your ability to sleep. And the problem is exacerbated by all these energy drinks that people drink later in the day, right? So the closer you are to bedtime when you're consuming anything with a stimulant like caffeine, the harder it is going to be for you to have a restful night's sleep, right? So Hey, Lily, nice to see you there. So, you know, this is like a vicious cycle, vicious cycle of you don't sleep well, you wake up tired, you drink coffee or caffeine or other stimulants, and then you go to bed and you can't really sleep well the next night, so you wake up tired the next morning, lather, rinse, repeat. It's a vicious cycle, right? And that's why I call it the caffeine trap. So now that you know what the caffeine trap is, how many of you here have that, you know? It's very common. Everybody does that, right? So alcoholic drinks, it can be a problem too, a little bit problematic. Yes, if you have a few drinks, you feel sleepy and it actually helps you go to sleep pretty quickly, but then it comes back to bite you later on in the night, right? It interferes with your sleep cycle later in the night, and you'll find yourself waking up in the middle of the night or too early in the morning and probably not feeling so great. So my advice to you is, if you're drinking alcohol, try to stop at least 3 to 4 hours before you are going to go to bed, and make sure you drink a tall glass of water, before you go to bed, so that you stay hydrated during the night, because dehydration that happens from drinking too much or drinking too many stimulants and not being hydrated can also create a lot of turmoil for you during the night, which will mean you'll end up waking up often, or before you're ready to actually get up. So and so here's some alternatives you can consider. There are green teas and white teas are very lightly caffeinated. So maybe if you want to stick to coffee in the morning, if you must drink coffee, and I'm a coffee lover, so you'll have to pry out of my cold dead hands. I won't give up coffee, but I try to stick to it in the early part of the day. In the afternoon, early afternoon, you could go for a lightly caffeinated white or green tea. Some people like herbal substitutes like yerba mate, or something called tea chino, which is made from chicory root. So it has kind of a coffee-like, I don't know if I'd say flavor, but it has like a density that's sort of similar to coffee. And yes, that is why you're chronically waking up at 2:30, drinking too much wine. It could be something to pay attention to for sure, but it could be other things as well. Anyway, if you want to try to kick your coffee habit altogether, there is an amino acid supplement you can take called L-tyrosine. And you take it at certain intervals. You take it first thing in the morning when you get up, and then you take it at certain intervals, and it sort of kind of gives you a little bit of that feeling of energy and clarity that you would ostensibly get from drinking coffee. If you want to know more how to do that, Julia Ross goes into it in more great detail in her book, The Diet Cure. And this, by the way, is an excellent book if you want to wean yourself off of sugar, off of caffeine. She has a lot of great information here. So Diet Cure, and it's Julia Ross. Okay, so that's that for the coffee thing. Now, the other thing is that can help you with your energy, so you don't have to take stimulants, is I find that yoga stretching can be really helpful. And exercise in general, of course, helps you sleep better at night, and it gives you energy. So, but if you're, having an issue, then simple yoga stretching, I find if I can carve out like 10, 15 minutes in my morning to do some deep breathing and some yoga stretching, that my energy is more even keeled throughout the day. And really, anytime you can just do 10 or 15 minutes of yoga stretching and breathing, even in the afternoon or early evening, it's going to give you a little bit of a boost of energy without you having to take a stimulant. So it's not something that's going to stay in your system. It helps you stay energized, and then when you're ready to go to sleep and go down, you can go down, and there's not going to be an interference, a disturbance in the force. So comment below and share with us if you have any tools or techniques or tips or things that you do to boost your energy during the day without relying on caffeine, because I'd love to hear about it. I always like to know what other people are up to and what they're doing with those kinds of cool things. So let's move on to number 3, stress. And that's a really big one. I kind of put it at number 3 because it's kind of broad-based. Now, for some of you, stress might be the only reason why you don't sleep well at night. And stress can show up in a lot of different forms. It can show up as physical pain. It can show up as emotional pain and distress, fear, worry, excessive worry. Your brain's kind of worrying around at night when you're trying to sleep. And so really, like the sort of antidote to that is to try to really get clear on what's triggering your stress, and then address that as much as you possibly can. And it can be complicated when you have a lot of things going on, but becoming aware of what's causing the stress is the first step, right? And sometimes it's just a simple matter of adjusting your attitude, changing your thoughts and your attitudes about a particular situation or a particular person. All of these things can stay with us. Like, the longer we hang on to emotions that are not serving us, the more they kind of just stir around within us instead of kind of letting go. So releasing energy and emotions that are keeping you kind of in a stuck pattern can be also helpful. And there's a wide variety of ways you can do that, way more than I can cover right now, but I'm just going to give you some quick tips. Now, one thing to consider is if you've had any kind of trauma in the past and you have trouble sleeping, you could be experiencing a form of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, without even realizing it. It could be that your subconscious mind is preventing you from getting into a deep sleep because there's some fear there's some underlying fear or perception or sense that there's danger all around you and that you always have to be at the ready to get up and run, And so if you're in a deep sleep, you're not going to be able to be prepared to fight and flight, right? So that's one thing to pay attention to if that's one of your issues. If you've had some past traumas, you might want to look into tapping, EFT tapping, and that's just one suggestion. But at any rate, that could be a cause of stress, underlying continuing stress that interferes with your sleep quality. The important thing is to get your stress hormones under control, and that's your cortisol, which is really adrenaline. And because when you have too much cortisol going on, which is what happens when we freak out and we're stressed out, it can wreak havoc on a lot of your body's processes, including digestion, restoration and repair, your immune system function, your energy, all of it, and your mood, of course, can be affected by too much cortisol. And cortisol is also, by the way, one of the things that causes you to gain weight and get fat when you don't get enough sleep. It's like, people that have the big bellies, a lot of that is they're stressed out and there's too much cortisol and it's not balanced out. So you want to keep your cortisol under control. Who here feels like they lose sleep at night because they're preoccupied with worry and fears about stuff? Please share in the comments and know that you're not alone. Obviously, a lot of people have these same challenges when it comes to sleeping at night. So the best way, like I said, to manage your stress is identify the triggers and address them as much as you can. But I'm going to give you some quick suggestions on some stress reduction techniques, simple things you can do that can help. I think that journaling is a really helpful tool, right? If you just keep a journal either by your bedside or you do it first thing in the morning when you wake up, because a lot of the stress, what I said, is things stirring around in your head and they never get out. But once you get them out of your head and you get them on paper, it's kind of like a cathartic experience sometimes. And a lot of times it's just a release. You can, now that you've captured it somewhere, your mind doesn't have to worry about hanging on to it because you might forget. Our minds work in strange ways sometimes. The brain is a very powerful tool, and it can do some very strange things as well. So I think that if you can get what's in your head out on a piece of paper, then it becomes clearer to you how you can go about addressing the problems that are keeping you up at night and making you worry, right? And maybe you might even note that in your journal, some ideas or some solutions, because once you start to feel like you're developing a plan to address the problem, it takes a lot of the worry away. So journaling, it takes the emotional charge out of it. So journaling is really good. And what I like to tell people is just practice staying present with what is. Because a lot of what worry and fear is us projecting our fears about what could happen, what might happen, what happens if this happens, what do I do there? And then you're spending a lot of time in the future, which you can't predict and you don't know. And so that's kind of creates a lot of fear and a lot of stress. So try to practice staying present. And, one of the best ways I know to do that is meditation, right? Meditation, like I said, the yoga, stretching, and deep breathing. And there's two excellent books I want to tell you about that can also help with that. The first one is this one, Don Miguel Ruiz's The Four Agreements. It's just a tiny little book. It's probably 110, 130 pages or something. But this packs a powerful spiritual teaching. And it really helps you maintain perspective about the things that might be keeping you up at night. And this is the other one that I really like. It's called Comfortable with Uncertainty by Pema Chodron. And it's a bit kind of a Buddhist spiritual also look at things. And they're just little vignettes, like 2-page stories that illustrate different things about how you can gain perspective and not let uncertainty let you spiral out of control. So highly recommend these two books to read if this is one of your issues, and see if that helps you get a handle on your stress. Because once you have a handle on your stress, your cortisol goes down, and then that's a good thing. The other thing is there's plenty of CDs and DVDs out there that you can buy and use to guide you You could do a guided meditation at night before you go to bed, might help. There's also these subliminal audios that you can use to address different issues. So insomnia being one of them, health being others, motivation, abundance, love, you name it. And one of the ones I like to use comes from a woman named Kelly Howell, and her website is BrainSync, BrainSync, brainsync.com. So check that out and see if you find something of interest to you. And then last but not least is just get into the habit of doing a lot of deep breathing. Deep breathing is actually part of a meditation practice because it centers you and grounds you and gets you present in your body. And so I do something called a box breathing technique. And what you do is you inhale through your nose slowly to the count of 5, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you hold it for the count of 20. And then you slowly blow it out or release it out of your mouth to the count of 10. Now, for people who are not accustomed to doing deep breathing, that could be very hard and challenging, and you might have to work your way up to it. So it doesn't have to be those numbers, it's just the pattern. So the pattern is your initial count, which could be 3 or 2 even, and then you hold the breath for 4 times the initial count. Okay, so if it was 3, you'd hold the breath to the count of 12, and then you release it at double the initial count. So like you count to 6 as you release. So I do 5, 20, 10. You could do 3, 12, 6, any number combination you feel comfortable with. But what that does is it really helps you to expand your lungs, right, and strengthen so that you really get some deep, deep breathing and oxygenation. And I recommend that you do that like 10 times in a row. And I think it's great to do it at night before you go to bed to help you wind down and relax. You could also do it first thing in the morning when you wake up before you get out of bed, and then at different intervals throughout the day. So it can also help you with your energy, one of those things I mentioned about deep breathing. So now that you have some tools to help you deal with your stress, let's go down to reason number 2, and that is poor sleep environment. And this is one of the most overlooked contributors to sleep problems, right? It's really important to have a good night's sleep. You have to have a quality sleep environment that's free of disruptions and distractions and too much light and noise and all kinds of stuff. So what you really want ideally is a dark, or you want to keep your room dark, cool, and quiet. And you can keep it dark by using room darkening shades. You can use an eye shade. I use an eye shade to block out the light, mostly to block out the light when it gets light out in the morning early on, not so much at night. But the other issue is electronics in your bedroom, because the electromagnetic fields and the blue, what they call blue light, the emission of the blue light interferes with your body's natural rhythm, which I'm also going to get into in a minute here, and keeps you from having the proper kind of sleep within the proper time frame. So you want to minimize the amount of electronics you keep in the bedroom. You might want to consider switching to a battery-operated clock. And I highly recommend that you turn the clock away from you so that if you accidentally wake up in the middle of the night, you can't see it and get even more stressed out about what time it is and how much time you have left to sleep before you have to get up. Because who knows what I'm talking about? Anybody go through that? It's really stressful. You wake up and you go, oh, crap. You know, it's like an hour before the alarm's going to go off. And then I only have an hour left to get some sleep. And I feel so tired already. Well, how am I going to do this? So you don't want to get into that little trap. So avoid being able to see the clock while you're sleeping, I think, is really helpful. Now, the other big disruption is your pets. Who knows what I'm talking about, right? So the Mayo Clinic Sleep Disorders Center did a survey and found that out of all their patients, 53% indicated that their sleep was interrupted or disrupted throughout the night by their pets. Well, not throughout the nights, but at least, you know, a couple times a night. And this is a tough one because we love our pets and we love to snuggle with them. I love snuggling with my kitties, especially first thing in the morning. But you got to draw a line somewhere. And there are nights when they're being their naturally rambunctious nocturnal creatures, the cats are. And on those nights, I just lock them out. I don't allow them into the bedroom because otherwise I can't get a good night's sleep. And I've just come to the conclusion it's not worth it. So you can either keep them out of the bedroom at night or get them a separate pet bed so they can come and sleep in the bed instead of jumping up in your bed and waking you up every so often during the course of the night. So remember, you want to keep the room quiet. You want to keep it cool also, because ideally to fall asleep, you want your body temperature, it doesn't be cold, but cool, not hot. So you don't want to jack your heat up too high at night when you're going to bed. or overdo it in terms of like getting dressed, unless it happens to just be freezing outside. That's a different story, but an exception, not the rule. So I don't know. I'm just curious. How many of you people here have pets that are disrupting your sleep in the middle of the night? I guess it's a pretty common thing for those of us that have pets. Let me hear from you in the comments. All right, so let's get down to reason number 1, which is a circadian rhythm mismatch. Blah, blah. And it sounds a little bit technical. So I just talked about how the blue light from your electronics can interfere with your rhythm, with your natural rhythm. So your circadian rhythm is your body's natural rhythm. It's the way your body responds to changes in the light, from dark to light, night to day, day to night. So a gland, the pineal gland, controls, it's like your internal thermostat, controls the release of serotonin and melatonin. So it starts to release melatonin when it senses that it's dark outside, right? Because that's when your body's supposed to be getting ready to go to sleep. Lolita says, I have 2 large cats that cry at the door when I lock them out. Oh no, I know the feeling. That's why I sleep with earplugs. I put in earplugs so that I don't have to hear that too much. But yeah, I know it's really hard. We love our kitties, but sometimes it makes us crazy when we can't sleep and they're there. But anyway, getting back to the circadian rhythm, the deal is that your brain releases melatonin to help you sleep at night. And it kind of goes like that until the wee hours of the morning, and then the melatonin starts to, trail off. And then when it's like fully light out, your body starts to release serotonin, which is sort of the mood enhancing, energy activating hormone that like helps you to wake up and be more alert. So it's this mismatch between when we're going to sleep and when we're being exposed to the blue light, which comes from all our appliances. So blue light from the appliances is like light. And so if we're working on our appliances or electronics, our electronic devices at night, when it's already dark out, there's a mismatch because our body's releasing melatonin, trying to help us get to sleep, but then it's being fooled by being exposed to the blue light from our television, from our computer, from our, smartphones and other devices. So you want to, the one rule of thumb for this is that you want to turn off your electric or electronic devices at least an hour before you go to bed. So you got to stop watching TV, stop working on the computer, stop checking your phone at least an hour before you want to go to bed. And try to keep those things out of your bedroom. Now, I use my smartphone as an alarm, so I keep it on the floor next to my bed where it's not really where I can see it, and I keep it turned face down so the light from the phone doesn't disturb me. But now some of the phones have a setting in there where you can adjust the brightness of the screen to a warmer light. It's kind of a cool thing I just recently discovered. So you go from a blue light, which is cool, to a warmer, like yellower light. So when you're using your phone at night, it's not quite as intense in terms of the light. But that's the gist of what happens. So the circadian mismatch is probably the most common and overlooked reasons why so many of us have trouble sleeping well at night, and we wake up feeling not so great, not so fresh in the morning. Anyway, I mentioned these other tips under the poor sleep environment, and those can help with the circadian mismatch as well, because the circadian rhythm can be disrupted by travel, and jet lag, that kind of thing, and then also changing time zones, things like that, and then stress, of course, and the light. So some of the tips I shared under the poor environment section there will help you with that too. The room darkening, keeping things cool and quiet, all of those things, and then dealing with your stress. That's why I mentioned at the top that it's likely not just one of these 5 reasons why you're not getting enough sleep. It's probably a combination of all 5 at different times and varying times and intensities at different times in your life. But the thing with the electronics is so common and prevalent now, it's probably something that affects all of us all the time. So it's definitely number 1 thing to look at. So give me a shout out in the comments below if you're finding this information useful. Now, if you'd like more wellness information like this and some inspiration tips, I'd like to invite you to join my Facebook group, Women's Wellness and Natural Healing for Success, and I'll type the link in the comments when we're done here. I have some really cool stuff lined up for the group there, including going to be doing some special Facebook Lives just for the group, including one on how to heal your thyroid without medication. And that's just one of many that I have planned coming up. But you will need to be a member of the group to have access to some of those Facebook Lives. So if you're game, then come on over and join the conversation with us there. And again, I'll post the links in the comments here when we're done. So let's do a quick recap of what we covered today. It was the 5 top reasons why you're not getting enough quality sleep, right? So it's not just enough sleep. Well, it's enough sleep. If you're not getting quality sleep, you're not getting enough sleep. So starting from number 5, reason number 5 is the poor posture and comfort, the princess and the pea. And this is all about the type of mattress you use, the type of pillow you use, and the position that you typically like to sleep in, or different positions that you like to sleep in. And we talked about the worst position being sleeping flat on your stomach. So stomach sleepers should, consider getting one of those body pillows they can hug. And then you want to make sure you use a contoured pillow for your head so that your neck is properly supported, whether you sleep on your side or on your back. Won't support you if you sleep on your stomach. And then number 4, overconsumption of too many stimulants, mainly caffeine, but sugary drinks and alcoholic drinks play a role as well. Remember, rule of thumb, caffeine stays in your system for 7 hours. So do your math, go back, do the math and backwards engineer it. So think of it like this. If you want to get to bed at 10, for example, stop drinking caffeine by 3 p.m. in the afternoon. That's the main thing. And, avoid those energy drinks late in the day. The other thing I didn't mention, which is something to consider, which is that if you are a dark chocolate fiend like I am, I love dark chocolate, especially really dark chocolate, like more than 70% cocoa, 80%, 85, you name it. I love the really dark chocolate. It doesn't have caffeine in it, so it's not going to give you that edginess that you get from caffeine, but it does keep you alert because it really wakes up your mind. So if you eat too much dark chocolate in the evening, be aware that can also be a factor affecting your ability to get a nice, deep, restful sleep. So that was number 4. Number 3 is stress. And of course, stress is a big one. For most people have stress on some level. It could be physical pain. It could be emotional distress. I shared a number of different techniques to help with stress reduction, including journaling, yoga stretching, deep breathing. And then I shared some cool books that I think will help. One of them was the 4 Agreements. The other one was this thing, getting comfortable with uncertainty. So those are some ways to deal with your stress. And then number 2 is poor sleep environment, which means you have too many distractions and disruptions in your bedroom or wherever it is that you sleep. So, either there's too much light in the room because you don't have dark enough room shades, which you can correct by wearing an eye shade. Or you have too many electronic appliances, so the blue light from the appliances is affecting your sleep. Or you've got pets, and your pet's going to romp around with you at night and keep you up or wake you up. And what pets can actually wake you up from a deep sleep really quickly, very quickly. So something to consider there. And then also keeping the room cool. So those are 5 things you have to pay attention to have a quality sleep environment that supports you in getting a good night's rest. And then last but not least is number 1, circadian rhythm mismatch. Again, that speaks to the exposure to the blue light from our electronic devices. So our natural circadian rhythm, it secretes hormones based on whether it's light out or dark out. So at night, it's supposed to be releasing melatonin to help you sleep. But if you're using electronic devices that emit blue light, it confuses your body and makes your body think, oh, it's not really nighttime yet. So it interferes with the proper secretion of these, both melatonin and serotonin, which comes in the morning to help you wake up and be more alert. So your circadian rhythm mismatch is probably, or most likely, the biggest contributing factor to your ability to have a good night's rest. And it's something to really take a look at. And my advice is that stop using your electronic devices at least 1 hour before you go to bed. So no caffeine for 7 hours before bed, no blue light for an hour before you go to bed. I think if you take those 2, you might find a huge difference in the quality of your sleep. So I hope you found this session valuable. Let me know in the comments below if you did and what you learned from it, if you learned anything you didn't already know, or what you found most interesting or enlightening about it. And again, I'd like to invite you to join my Facebook group, Women's Wellness and Natural Healing for Success, if you'd like even more valuable wellness information, inspiration, and free content. And I'll post that link for that in the comments when we're done here. And that's it for today. Thanks, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. And until the next time, be well. Bye now.